On Friday, September 15th, students from several area schools, including Long Trail School, Burton Academy, and the Maple Street School, converged in the Factory Point Town Green in Manchester to hear from a group of speakers on climate change. The event was a sequel to an earlier action back in 2019, also known as the Global Week for the Future, and inspired by Greta Thunberg's group Fridays for Future. The event in Manchester was one of many held around the country and internationally, and a lead-up to a march in New York City timed to coincide with the opening of the next session of the United Nations. The event in Manchester was organized by the local group Earth Matters and kicked off by the Reverend Claire North.
And we often forget in this life that we're in, with all of its busyness and achieving and consuming, that we are the Earth's children. Another species sharing this planet and calling it home. We forget our bodies are made up of all the elements the Earth is made of: water, fire, earth, and air.
She was followed by several student speakers.
One of the first times I realized how passionate I was about conservation work was in April of this year, where I went with Ecology Project International to the Pequare Reserve in Guanacaste, Costa Rica. It was a 9-day trip through Burton Academy that I went on with 11 other girls my age. On this trip, we got to have amazing hands-on experiences with leatherback sea turtles helping to conserve their habitats and their eggs. Sea turtles are vital to our ocean's habitat, one of the main reasons for this being that they're huge contributors to maintaining productive coral reef ecosystems. And without these creatures, our oceans would have unimaginable and nearly unfixable consequences. It's for these reasons that bringing awareness to climate change and working towards a better future for ourselves is so incredibly vital. This is undoubtedly an incredibly pressing issue. However, there's still hope to be had. Coming together as communities to take action, we can create a brighter and greener future, both for ourselves right now and for future generations.
In the last several years, climate change has affected weather predictability in my life. We can no longer assume that there will be enough snow for good skiing conditions, nor can we be confident our summers will be warm. We've all seen the effects of climate change on our state, from the terrible floods that tore through our capital to the thick smoke from Canadian wildfires. However, through this change in predictability, I have also learned many new things. For example, when my parents were young, all food waste was thrown away. Now my family composts and we have installed solar panels. Even small changes such as these can have a tremendous impact when added together with thousands or millions of other people. So while climate change is threatening our planet, we can do something. We just need to start small.
It's sad that I cannot fully enjoy a beautiful moment without immediately jumping to its impermanence. Within my generation, I feel an ever-present sense of hopelessness and hopelessness regarding our planet. I feel it more than ever as I scroll through my phone. Within popular media, we are constantly swallowing and subconsciously accepting that our world is ruined to a point of no return. This despair, this mourning of our world as we know it, is real and raw, and I feel waves of it with each new headline. Extreme wildfires, record high temperatures, devastating hurricanes. Our very own community has been heavily impacted by flooding this summer. How can we continue to deny the climate crisis when it is right before our eyes, rushing into our basements, wiping out our roads and houses?
Earlier this year, I went up to the State House for the Vermont Youth Lobby to give support for the Affordable Heat Act. This act helps Vermonters reduce their dependence on high-cost, price-volatile, and polluting fossil heating fuels, and it was a part of the Clean Heat Standard that will reduce pollution over time. Now, this bill passed, but not without contention from various people, many of which were Vermont state representatives. As we walked around the State House and talked with our representatives, many of them spoke about the negative effects it would have for combating pollution. Specifically, in regards to the harm it would cause to industries that cause climate change. On the way home that day, I was left with a foul taste of disappointment in my mouth, knowing that the people we put into power did not have our best interests in mind, knowing that finding the balance between private businesses and environmental legislation is nearly impossible, knowing that those with greater influence cause disadvantages after disadvantages to those less fortunate for themselves, and the less fortunate don't have a platform to speak. Now, this experience I went through is not a singularity. I've seen this everywhere. This applies to our homes, schools, state houses, and even the United Nations.
We had a chance to speak with Mika Hansen, one of the students who spoke at the rally.
Well, I've always been really interested in biology, ecology, and fighting for things that I believe in, and climate change is something that's always been very prevalent in my life as a Vermonter. I was born and raised here, but the reason I came to this today was because Letitia Scordino reached out. My older sister, Kaya Hansen, spoke in 2019, and she talked about the heat rising and how ticks were coming more into our environment. My father passed away in 2017 due to a tick-borne illness, and I truly believe that it was because of the heightened amount of ticks that are in our state. So climate change is just a subject that's always been really, really important to me and important in my life.
After the speeches, the mostly student crowd headed over the Manchester roundabout, where they waved signs and expressed their concerns to motorists passing through.
Ain't no power like the power of the people, cause the power of the people don't stop. Ain't no power like the power of the people, cause the power of the people don't stop. Ain't no power like the power of the people, cause the power of the people don't stop.
Stephanie Moffat-Hines, one of the organizers helping with the rally, discussed the importance and significance of it.
Well, it's just so important because everything is ramping up. I mean, you only have to open your eyes and look around and see how many more climate disasters are happening. And it always kills me when it's seen as a black or a blue, rather a blue or a red issue. It's not. It affects all of us. It affects our children. I mean, these are the children. The reason why this is so important today is because, look at them. Look at their faces. How can you have them look in your eyes and tell them, when they tell you, I'm worried, I need people to come together, help us to make that change that we must have for our only home. How can you see that and just say, well, it's not my problem? Because it's all of our problems. We're all in this together. And there are so many things we can do. It's still very possible to make this a much, much healthier world. I remain optimistic and I remain incredibly inspired by these kids. It's excellent. It's so important.
Meanwhile, officials at the UN noted the previous week that the world was not on track to meet the climate warming goals set in 2015 by the Paris Climate Accords. Those accords call for limiting global warming to an increase of 1.5 degrees centigrade, or about 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit, by 2030. Instead, the world has already warmed at least 1.1 degrees centigrade, or 2 degrees in Fahrenheit, since 2015. And over the past few months, the Earth has broken its daily average heat record several times, with July being the hottest month ever on record. For the GNAT-TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.